Jason. We're about to do some electrical stuff. It's a nice, perfect sunny morning here in Florida for those of you keeping track at home. In other places you call home. It's 75 degrees, nice, cool, clear morning. Perfect day to be fishing. So instead, we're working on the Bronco. But I have the essentials for a perfect morning: coffee and beer. So we're gonna dive in. We're gonna do some questionable electrical work. This fuse panel is just worn out. All the fuse slots are very loose. So we're gonna do one of two things. We're either gonna do it slightly the right way and try and take apart the fuse box, disconnect it from the wiring, and pull all the pinouts out for the fuses and see if we can squeeze them together a little bit, get the fuses to sit tighter. Or we're just going to pull all the fuses, coat the tips in aluminum foil just to give them a little bit more purchase, and ram them back in. Depending on what it looks like behind this fuse panel is going to decide which course we take. But either way, I'm hoping that clears some things up. I will take you for a spin later today, but got everything done in the last video, as you can see, from the harmonic balancer and water pump install. So mechanically, she seems to be good under the hood. But when you drive this thing, it feels like the transmission's about to rip out of the bottom of it. It goes really high RPM before it shifts. When it does, it grabs really hard. Sometimes it almost feels like it's slipping and not engaging. But what I think the main issue with that is this is a, what do they call it, E4OD transmission. It's electronically controlled, so it's got to have good signal to all the sensors and everything to tell it when to shift. One of the fuses that's not making good contact is the one that controls all the dash assembly. So my speedometer wasn't working, none of my gauges were working, and I'm assuming not getting a tach and a speed signal to the trans could be affecting the shift. Also, I imagine there's some kind of vehicle speed sensor involved. From what I've read, there's something in the axle that measures rotations for vehicle speed. I'm thinking that wire may either not be properly connected because somebody has done some snipping of some wires here, and it's also possible there's a fuse controlling it that's just not making good contact. So plan for today is get this all situated in the fuse box itself. I've got a couple green and yellow wires here, which I believe now to be dome lights, but I'm not certain. And there's also a connector over here someone has cut with about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wires in it that seems to be for seatbelt. The seatbelt button, little blinky alerty light thing, and then dome lights, and I think possibly third brake light is all connected through those wires that are just, someone just cut them. I'm thinking maybe they had something that was shorted out, or something that was just draining the battery. Maybe the dome lights wouldn't shut off because the sensor was bad and showing the door open all the time. I don't have a why for a lot of what's been going on this truck, but I know that to be the case. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and get all those wires put back together, get the fuse panel put back together, and then just see what works and what doesn't. So first, we're going to attempt breaking the actual panel out of here, see if we can fix this wiring the proper way. I'm not going to go full caveman right off the bat, but I'm prepared if the need arises. I've done the aluminum foil trick before. It is a little redneck, but it works, and it's not unsafe as long as you're not spinning that aluminum foil across both contacts of the fuse. T20 for the screws holding this fuse block in. But so I've done the aluminum foil trick before. As long as you're just putting it on each side of the fuse, not bridging the gap, you're still going to have a protected circuit. You're just trying to thicken up the area to keep it from losing contact, which is what this one's doing. So we're going to see if we can get this guy out of here. This going to pull any of these fuses that seem loose. Check them. This 10 amp is blown. Since I found my fancy map, I can look. Fuse 17, 10 amp fuse, so the right size was in. Warning buzzer, chime module, warning indicators, gauges, tachometer, electronic transmission. So we'll start with the basics. We're just going to replace it, see if it blows again. Almost forgot. Disconnect your battery before you go jacking with wiring. So that one fits tight, so I'm not going to go messing with any of them that are loose. I am going to pull every fuse though and check to see if any of them are bad. Oh, this one pulled the terminal right out with it. That's nice. Actually, this was one of those like fuse add-on doohickeys that you put on there, and then you can put something with a female end on it. Sketchy, I like it. I'll save that in case I need it for something down the road, but it doesn't need to be there. Nothing was connected to it. So back in with that one. What were they jumping off of? Cigarette lighter. So they were pulling an additional, maybe they had an additional cigarette lighter, maybe they were running a CB radio, something like that. It's not a bad one to piggyback power off of if you're going to. 20 amp below that, good to go. That one's a little bit loose, number 9. PowerPoint. We're going to put our space saver on that to fatten it up. For now, good as new. Felt like I was keeping you guys a little too in the dark, so moving you up here by me. Most of these actually feel pretty tight. There's only a few questionable ones. I believe this one here is the one that was loose that was causing the dash not to work. I believe radio display dimmer. I would say that's probably the guy there, but it's plenty tight, so this one's flopping around like mad. Not even touching on one side. Oh, somebody's already done my aluminum foil trick. Well, looky there. Number 8. Lucky winner, courtesy, dome, cargo lamps, outside mirrors, radio clock memory, speedometer memory. I may have to go behind here because I don't see that terminal at all. Wish this thing would come out, but it does not wanna. So I'm gonna show you what I'm looking at here. This fuse slot, you can see the terminal on that end. This one, negative, Ghost Rider. The wire for it is right here up in the top. It's that kind of yellow striped guy right there. And it's very loose in the back, and it's not all the way through in the front. If I push on that, you can see it wiggling and working its way up to the front. I gotta get the fuse on it while it's pushed up like that so it'll bite. So let's see what we can come up with here. Got it. Nice and tight. I just shoved the wire from the backside, held it, slid the fuse on, and it grabbed. Had a 25 in it. It's supposed to be a 15. So also check to make sure that somebody's putting the right size stuff in. I think we got the same problem here. This guy's slightly loose. We're going to double check that one. Check on this 15, and then I think we're all buttoned up. And hopefully we got our issues resolved. Let's see. It's tricky to get you guys situated. How's that? Is that working for you? Looks good. All right, let's get this guy loose. Same thing back here. I'm going to hold this wire and push it in. $20 amp, looks good. Terminals are up. This one feels a little loose. I want to double check it. It comes out with like no resistance. Yeah, it's got a terminal pressed into 5. Not used. So that would explain it. Someone just was using it as a spare. There is no terminal plugged into that one. So, I mean, that's good. It's good that the loose one wasn't doing anything. So now we can shove this back in here. Let's go ahead and put our bracket back in place. That goes like this. So we want to make sure, normally I would just leave everything loose and try it and see what happens before I screw everything back together in case I have to take it back out. But if it's grounding through it, I don't want to hurt anything not having this thing situated. There's a method for my madness today. Sometimes there's not. Today, just a little. Haven't finished that first beer yet, so. All right, panel's up. Everything's in place. Everything's tight. All the fuses are verified good. Gosh, this guy up here now, loose as hell. Musical fuse. Yeah, I can feel that. Push it out. We're gonna give that guy just a little bit on one side with the foil. The one side's biting, the side that's connected to the actual fuse panel is a little bit loose. I just want to make sure, so we're gonna go ahead and just make ourselves a little. So we're just folding it over a couple times where it's the same width as the blade. Just folding it over. Just like that, like a little, you know, like a gold tooth. Maybe. Bam. There we go. Okay, everything's in. All those fuses are tight. Before I go messing with all these wires that are cut and disconnected, let's just see what this does. We'll fire it up, see if that one fuse blows immediately, and then move forward from there. Here are those wires I was telling you about that were cut back here. You can see this whole bundle cut, which connects to this plug here. Why not just disconnect the plug? I mean, it's a little, looks a little melted. I'm thinking one of these maybe started shorting a little bit, fried that plug, blew the fuse, so he just snipped it off. I mean, I wouldn't call that the right way to do it. This isn't connected to anything. This isn't connected to anything. From what I can tell, this has that same green and yellow connector that that is cut here and up here. These there's two of them. Obviously, they were connected here to here to here, and one back there. And if you look, green and yellow. So I think both dome lights share green and yellow connectors, and they disconnected those probably because the bulbs were either getting they were either on constantly because of a bad, you know, door switch, or it was shorting to the frame somewhere and they just unplugged it. I'm okay with that for now. That dome light's not even there anyway because someone's ripped the headliner out. This one, I believe, well, one of these, they both have a green and yellow. One of these also, from what I understand, on some models would do like lumbar control on the seats. I don't have that, so it might just be an unused plug. I still have this disconnected, changed slightly on this side, but this was plugged into here. I'm gonna leave that disconnected. Obviously that switch being gone, it ain't doing anything. If I were to wire a switch instead for the overdrive, I would need to come off this plug or sacrifice, I'll probably sacrifice, cut this to have a pigtail so I'm not hurting the stock body wiring. I hate doing that. So I would take this, plug it in here, cut this, and I'll splice in a toggle switch. I just got to figure out what goes where. All right, so we've got all of our fuses back in. All the fuses right now we know are good. Key in, key on position. The dash is lighting up, the mileage is showing, so we fixed that circuit. Gonna fire it up. Dash lights all lit up, which is good. Gas gauge is now showing quarter of the tank. It was showing full before, so clearly that gauge wasn't working. Tag is showing normal volt, which is good. Coolant levels low, which is good. Oil pressure shows 0, so it's fine. Digital trip meter is working even. Nothing on the rear window button. I think I'm in a smoky room. Here's what we're gonna do. Because I still don't know if I've resolved the transmission issue, what I'm gonna do is clean everything up in here. Let's take it for a spin around the block, see how it shifts. Then after that, we'll start tackling these wires. Again, I don't want to get ahead of myself. I want to do one thing at a time so I can verify what is fixing and what is making things worse. So let's clean up my mess here a little bit, and we'll put us out on the road. So, a couple things. Got everything put back together for the wiring. Fuse panel seems fine now. Honestly, it took a couple minutes. I don't know why the guy didn't just do it to begin with. He told me it had some electrical issues, and he said the dash would only work if you wiggle the fuses. In less than 5 minutes, I had it fixed where he could have sold it with everything working and potentially made more money off of it. But I guess I'm glad he didn't. Doing a little shifter redneckery. I want the indicator to line up, but the tab for it is broken. And until I can get to a junkyard or something like that to get another one, I at least want this one to be somewhat in place. Park, reverse, neutral, drive. Oh yeah, good as fixed. We're gonna call that botched enough. Look at that custom handiwork. But it's in there. The bracket that holds it, the bolt provision is just snapped off. So until we get to a junkyard, that'll do. It does line up on the indicator now though. So we got park, reverse, neutral, drive, second. First is still giving us some trouble. I gotta mess with that linkage a little more, but we're good for now.